You are looking at the map of Iran. To the south of Iran, there is a country called Oman. Between these two countries, there is a narrow body of water called the Strait of Hormuz. Iran controls the northern side, while Oman controls the southern side. If you move past the Strait of Hormuz, you reach a large body of water called the Persian Gulf. This body of water separates Iran and a group of countries known as the Gulf states. In other words, the Persian Gulf is that large body of water located between Iran and the Gulf countries. These countries include Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, where we find Dubai, Qatar, Iraq, Bahrain, Kuwait, and Oman. These countries are extremely important to the global economy. I often describe them as the gas station of the world. About 25% of all the oil that we use globally comes from this region. So the oil is transported to the rest of the world through ships and tankers. And these oil ships and tankers pass through this space between Iran and Oman, the Strait of Hormuz. Now the problem is that Iran has been disrupting traffic in this Strait of Hormuz. It has threatened to destroy any vessel that passes through. This has severely and significantly affected global oil prices. In addition, Iran has also been bombing its neighboring countries, targeting American assets in those countries. The affected countries have been the Gulf states. This in retaliation to the airstrikes by Israel and America. This conflict began on the 28th of February when the United States and Israel launched a joint military operation targeting Iranian leaders and military sites. As we all know by now, the supreme leader of Iran was killed on the first day of this war. This created a leadership vacuum at the worst possible time for Iran. And that is exactly what the Americans wanted. They hoped that the people of Iran would use that opportunity to rise against their government. However, the people of Iran have not risen against their government. The Iranian government remains fully in charge, and they recently selected a new supreme leader, the son of the previous supreme leader who recently died. But more worryingly though, this conflict is no longer just about America and Israel versus Iran. The war has escalated into a full-blown regional crisis, and even countries like Azerbaijan, which are not in the Middle East, have been drawn into this conflict. And in the midst of the confusion, propaganda reigns supreme. One side will tell you that Donald Trump is right. The other side will say no, Iran is correct. But what if I told you that this issue is far more complicated than that? That the complexity of this issue goes far beyond any side simply being right or wrong. And this actually raises a very important question. Are we flirting with disaster? Are we staring World War III in the face? Are we standing on the edge of a nuclear nightmare? Well, fellow Sagittarius, slay queens and bingers, socialites, papalites, cinemalites, warikujigarites, never cinemarites. Welcome to this special report. So, where is this all coming from? Why are the US and Israel attacking Iran? And why did they kill the Ayatollah, the supreme leader? Well, as I said in my intro, this issue is complicated. As we all know, both Iran and Israel are in the Middle East. The Middle East is a group of countries located in Western Asia. The countries include Iran, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, Kuwait, Qatar, Oman, the United Arab Emirates, Yemen, Bahrain, Palestine, and Turkey. Of course, a part of Turkey is also in Europe. The Middle East has a lot of oil. Oil brings a lot of money, but it also brings a lot of problems. Powerful countries from outside the Middle East want control and influence in the Middle East because of oil. America has been involved in Iran since the 1940s, sometimes as a friend and sometimes as an enemy. Now, inside the Middle East, countries also compete with each other for regional dominance. This competition for regional dominance is sometimes political, sometimes economical, but sometimes religious. You see, this religious side of this conflict is often overlooked. For example, people often forget that Saudi Arabia and Iran actually compete for religious dominance in the Middle East. This is because the religion of Islam has two main denominations, namely Shia and Sunni. Iran is mostly Shia, and Saudi Arabia is mostly Sunni. But of course, the biggest rivalry in the Middle East is actually between Israel and Iran. But at the center of this conflict is a belief held by some radicals in Iran that Israel should not exist as a country. Many radicals believe that the nation of Israel, or rather the land of Israel, belongs to a country called Palestine. Remember, the modern state of Israel was created in 1948. I said the modern state of Israel was created in 1948. That means before the year 1948, there was no country officially called Israel. So the question is, where did the Jews come from? Where did the Israelites come from? Well, you see, about 4,000 years ago, the countries we now call Israel, Lebanon, Jordan, and bits of Syria were part of an ancient region called Canaan. The region of Canaan is mentioned extensively in ancient Egyptian history and even from written records from ancient Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia is modern-day Iraq, Turkey, and Iran, and even parts of Syria. So written records from all these places prove that a region called Canaan did exist. Afterwards, an Abrahamic tribe called Israelites dominated the region of Canaan, later establishing the Kingdom of Israel. The Kingdom of Israel later split into two separate kingdoms, namely the Northern Kingdom of Israel and the Southern Kingdom of Judah. The Northern Kingdom was the first to lose its independence when it was conquered by the Assyrian Empire in 722 BCE. That's over 2,700 years ago. The southern kingdom of Judah also later lost its independence as well. First to the Babylonians, modern-day Iraq, then to the Persians, modern-day Iran, followed by the Greeks under Alexander the Great and his successors, and of course, the Romans in 63 BCE, which is about 2089 years ago. Now, when Israel was under the Roman Empire, something fundamentally different happened. Firstly, the Romans turned the southern kingdom of Judah into a Roman province. It became known as the province of Judea. Later on, as the Jews resisted Roman rule, the province of Judea was renamed Syria Palestina. Many historians argue that this was done to erase any Jewish connection to that land and punish the population for the rebellion. I must emphasize that this argument is contested. But what is not contested is the fact that the Roman province of Judea was renamed Syria Palestina by the Romans. That is where the name Palestine comes from. I must emphasize that the Romans first applied the name Syria Palestina primarily to Judea. But over time, the name Palestine became widely used to refer to the broader region, encompassing both former kingdoms, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. So that means the region initially known as Canaan and later dominated by Israelites under the unified kingdom of Israel eventually became known as Palestine. It continued to be dominated by foreign empires, the Muslim caliphates, the Crusaders, the Ayyubids, the Mamluks, and finally the Ottoman Empire, which controlled the region from 1517 until its defeat in World War I in 1918. Though there were brief periods of Jewish independence and episodes of rebellion against a foreign rule, the land, initially known as Canaan and later called the Kingdom of Israel, was largely occupied and governed by outsiders for over 2,400 years. And for much of that time, after Roman rule, the name Palestine was used for this region under different empires. It is important to note that Palestine was mostly a geographical name, not an independent country. After the Jewish kingdoms lost their independence, many Jews spread to different parts of the world. Some were also taken as slaves, especially after revolts against the Roman Empire. This spread of Jewish communities became known as the Jewish Diaspora. Meanwhile, the population composition in Palestine was changing. Remember, I told you that the region of Palestine, previously known as the Kingdom of Israel, was dominated by different empires over time. So in the 7th century, this region was ruled by Arab Muslims. During this period, many Arabs moved from the Arabian Peninsula and settled in Palestine. And for the benefit of those who might not know, the Arabian Peninsula includes countries like Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Oman, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Bahrain, and also Kuwait. Historically, this is the homeland of Arab people and the birthplace of Islam. So when Arab Muslims took over in Palestine, many Arabs moved from the Arabian Peninsula to settle in Palestine. And as Arab Muslims moved to settle in Palestine, many Jews had already started living during the Jewish diaspora. Over time, Arab Muslims in Palestine became the majority, while Jews became the minority. And as the Jews started leaving their homeland, spreading to all parts of the world during the Jewish diaspora, they faced discrimination and were sometimes blamed for social and economic problems. So what then happened is that in the late 1800s, a movement called Zionism began. Its goal was to create a Jewish homeland. Many Jews wanted to return to their ancestral land, which by this time was known as Palestine, not Israel. But the complication with this was that Arab Muslims had now lived in Palestine for many centuries and were now the majority. And having lived in Palestine for centuries, they too considered Palestine their homeland. At that time, Palestine was part of the Ottoman Empire. After World War I, the Ottoman Empire collapsed, and the territories that belonged to the Ottoman Empire were given to countries that had won World War I. So, Palestine, having been a territory of the Ottoman Empire, was given to Britain with the goal of preparing for its independence. While Britain was ruling Palestine, it supported the idea of creating a Jewish homeland in Palestine. The British allowed the Jews to move to Palestine through an official immigration system. After the First World War, sympathy for the Jews increased because of the Holocaust, during which millions of Jews were killed in Hitler's concentration camps. Support for creating a Jewish state grew stronger. More Jews moved to Palestine, and this created animosity and violence between Arabs and Jews. In 1947, the United Nations proposed dividing the land into two countries, one for the Jews and another for the Arabs. Jewish leaders accepted the plan, but Arab leaders said no. In 1948, the Jews declared the creation of a new country called Israel on the side of Palestine designated to them by the United Nations under the two-state solution. This immediately triggered a war. War broke out between Israel and the neighboring Arab states, including Egypt, Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, and Jordan. However, Israel won the war. After that war, Israel controlled more territory than the United Nations had originally proposed. The only territories that Israel did not take were Gaza and the West Bank. But tensions between Israel and Arabs living in Gaza and the West Bank continued. In 1988, a group called the Palestine Liberation Organization, famously led by one Yasser Arafat, declared the creation of the State of Palestine. This started a global push for the recognition of the sovereignty of the Arab people of Palestine. The tension between Israel and the Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza has continued to this day. The unresolved conflict still shapes the region, and the declared State of Palestine remains without full sovereignty. Yes, Israel has built settlements on Palestinian land and even demolished homes and imposed a blockade on Gaza that has caused a severe shortage of food and essential supplies, leading to widespread hardship. On the other hand, a group called Hamas, based in Palestine, has also attacked Israel on many occasions. Now, Iran openly supports Palestine and even funds and arms groups like Hamas and Hezbollah, which is based in Lebanon. Remember, many radicals in Iran actually don't believe that Israel should exist as a country. They believe the land we call Israel today belongs to Palestine. That is precisely why Iran funds, arms, and supports militant groups that fight Israel. Iran especially hates the fact that Israel is closely aligned with America. The other cause of this war is Iran's nuclear program. You see, Israel says that it wants to stop Iran from getting nuclear weapons because Iran has in the past threatened to destroy Israel. But Iran says that its nuclear program has nothing to do with nuclear weapons. Remember, there is a difference between nuclear weapons and nuclear energy. Nuclear weapons are bombs. Nuclear energy can be used for electricity. Iran says its nuclear program has nothing to do with bombs. But Israel doesn't believe that. It is also worth mentioning that nuclear weapons give countries an extra layer of security. For example, North Korea built nuclear weapons in order to protect itself from outside threats. Now, because North Korea has nuclear weapons, attacking it would be very dangerous. That makes Western superpowers think twice before attacking North Korea. It is therefore not unthinkable that Iran probably wants the same level of protection. But Israel says no. And America also says no. And by the way, I have noticed that some people think that America only attacks other countries because of oil. That is not always true. America acts based on its own interests. And those interests are not always about money or oil. Sometimes they are political or strategic. For example, in geopolitical terms, Afghanistan does not have large oil reserves, yet America deployed its military there. I'm saying this because some people think that if a country has no oil, then that country does not matter to America. That is not true. Korea does not have major oil resources. Yet, during the Korean War, America fought to defend South Korea. That tells you that oil is not the only reason America gets involved in other countries. Sometimes the reasons are political, military, or strategic. In 2019, Donald Trump even visited North Korea. He became the first sitting American president to step onto North Korean soil when he crossed the DMZ to meet Kim Jong-un. Clearly, oil is not the only factor in American foreign policy. So, the claim that America does not attack North Korea simply because North Korea has no oil is false. Now let's look at the US-Iran relations. Because remember, this war in Iran does not only involve Israel, it also involves America. After the Second World War, America became more and more involved in the Middle East in order to stop the Soviet Union from spreading its influence. This was during the Cold War era. Furthermore, oil had become very important to global power. So therefore, America strengthened its relationship with Iran for two main reasons. Number one, to counter Soviet expansionism and assert American dominance in that region. And number two, oil. But in 1951, a new government was installed in Iran. This government nationalized the oil industry. It was led by this man, Mohammad Mossadegh. He had a very strong nationalist approach. He championed the sovereignty of Iran and rejected American influence, fighting for real and true independence. But you see, it cost him his job because in 1953, America sponsored a coup in Iran in response to the nationalization of oil. This coup benefited this man, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, commonly known as the Shah. This man went on to rule Iran for 26 years. He was a very harsh ruler, a brutal dictator. America ignored his human rights abuses because he supported American interests. During this time, Iran was a very close ally of the United States and also had cordial relations with Israel. However, many Iranians hated the Shah. One of his strongest critics was a religious leader named Ruhollah Khomeini, an Ayatollah. Remember, an Ayatollah is a very senior Muslim leader in Iran. Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini strongly criticized the Shah. He also criticized Western influence in Iran. Because of this, he was forced into exile. But while in exile, Ruhollah Khomeini sent recorded messages back to Iran calling on people to rise up in opposition to the rule of the Shah. Public anger grew. And in 1979, the Shah was removed in a popular revolution. That is how Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini became supreme leader and how the Islamic Republic of Iran was established. Now, the new government in Iran was strongly against America for obvious reasons. Remember, in 1953, America had sponsored a coup and helped keep a dictator, an American-sponsored dictator, for 26 years. Later, in 1979, Iranian students took over the US embassy in the Iranian capital, Tehran. American diplomats were held hostage for 444 days. From that moment, Iran and America became sworn enemies. And as Israel became closer and closer to America, Iran's new leaders saw Israel as a Western creation in the Middle East that was harming Muslims. This belief shaped the policy of Iran towards Israel. Remember, as I said before, Iran does not recognize the state of Israel. It sees Israel as a colonial project, a colonial master occupying the land of the Palestinian Muslims. But as I said in my intro, this issue is very complicated. Because if you say the land belongs to Israel, you must remember that Palestinian Muslims have lived in that country for many centuries. After many Jews left the region and spread across the diaspora, Jews became a minority in that land. It became the home of Arab Muslims. They were the majority. But if you say the land belongs to the Arab Muslims, the Palestinians, then what about the Jews who lived there earlier, long before the arrival of Muslim Arabs? The Israelites had kingdoms in that land, and they lived there for a very long time until they lost control through conquest. And if you say the land belongs only to the Israelites, then another question arises. What about the Canaanites? The people who lived in that region earlier, way before the Israelites arrived and dominated. Both sides have a real history in that land. Saying the land belongs only to one side ignores this long and complex history. For centuries, different people lived in that land, traded, fought, and ruled at different times. So the real question is not simply whose land is it? Maybe a better question is, how can it be shared in a way that can allow both peoples to live in it? Because the winner takes all has not worked and will not work. One party may win today, but who knows what tomorrow holds? So these, ladies and gentlemen, are the long-term causes of the current conflict we are witnessing in Iran and the Middle East. Are we staring World War III in the face? Are we flirting with disaster? Are we on the verge of a nuclear Armageddon? Well, whatever happens, I'll be here to marinate you with all the details without fear or favor, because on this platform, we say it as it is. And as always, thank you so much for watching. And if you enjoy the content, please like and share.